Welcome to the Holistic Career Change Podcast. Spoiler alert, we don't discuss conventional, linear, boring career change here. This is the place where we talk about finding an aligned career path that feels like an extension of who you are, where you get paid for being yourself. Forget personality quizzes, soul-crushing scrolling on job sites, and breaking your brain trying to find your why. Join me and many other career changers who've changed their career holistically by first defining who they are at their core and then using this blueprint to design a fulfilling career or business. We use the mind-body-soul approach, and we take into consideration the complexity and multidimensionality of all that you are and want to represent in the world. This is where purpose-led careers are born and built. I'm your host, Vilma Osaita. Let's go. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Holistic Career Change Podcast. I am so thrilled to bring you such a special episode today featuring two incredible, inspiring women, Linda and Lauren, who have completed the Holistic Career Change Group coaching program a few months back. And I absolutely love this conversation, and you'll be able to tell by my energy on the call. I get really animated and excited because, the conversation that we're having here is pretty raw and honest, and at the same time, it's really insightful because I'm sure so many of you will resonate and perhaps even recognize yourself in the stories that the ladies are sharing. We will dive deep into the realities of career transitions, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. We're exploring how our bodies signal misalignment, which is one of my favorite topics. We talk about the fears that resurface the minute we think that we found the answer and we're about to commit to the change. And we talk about the healing that comes from leaning into these uncomfortable emotions. Lauren and Linda, they do share a lot of the personal journeys from choosing careers for completely wrong reasons to rediscovering and getting confirmation on their alignment, on their aligned directions in their career and in their life. And we'll also discuss the multidimensional and the non-linear nature of career change. We laugh how when we're faced with important life decisions, our brain often likes to give us this dramatic binary choices that feel like life or death. And we talk about how to work through it. We will also tackle some hard truths like how we sometimes hide behind old stories and old patterns, and the importance of making career change a real priority in our lives. The ladies are also, by the way, talking about their experience in the group program, the answers that they managed to find, their highlights, the takeaways, and how especially having their career blueprint has, in a sense, become this map and a guiding star that is helping them with their decisions. And like I said, it's helping them not only in their career, but in their lives in general. I really, really invite you to listen to this episode till the end because there are so many aha moments here. And whether you are still just contemplating a career change or perhaps you're in the middle of one, this episode is really packed with relatable experiences and also just practical insights and tips that the girls share at the end. So grab a cup of coffee, grab your cup of tea, get comfortable, and join us for this beautiful, empowering conversation about finding your true self and transitioning in your career. Enjoy. Hi, ladies. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Hi, Vilma. Thank you.
So we have two of you today, Lauren and Linda, and I think I'm going to start with just asking you ladies to just briefly introduce yourself, whatever you feel like sharing. You don't need to overshare. This is just very beginning. We'll get into the juicy details later. So Lauren, maybe I'll start with you alphabetically. I'll do it like that.
All right. Thank you, Vilma. Super excited to be here. My name's Lauren. I am a 43-year-old woman, mother of one, partner to my husband, and I am somebody who currently works in tech. And prior to that, I worked in brand and design, strategy and innovation consulting.
Amazing. And where are you based?
I'm based in San Francisco, California, the Bay Area.
Lovely. Never been. Love to go.
Welcome. You're welcome anytime.
Amazing. Okay, thank you, Lauren. Linda, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, so I'm Linda. I'm from New York. I am turning 40 on Monday,
Oh my
and
goodness, happy birthday in advance.
thank you. And I was working in finance and switched over to wellness. I have 3 kids, and I'm married, and me and my family live in Long Island.
I didn't know you have 3 kids.
Yes, yeah,
Amazing.
and a dog and 2 outdoor cats. So our
Oh
house
my
is pretty
God.
busy.
How do you do it all? Oh my goodness. That's what I should interview
Seriously.
you on.
I get up early.
That's the secret. Amazing. Thank you so much, ladies. So where I usually start with these stories, career change stories, is I love the before, because I love a linear journey. Like I love the before chapters and kind of understanding where you guys were when you started feeling misalignment at work, when you started thinking about something is off. I need to change, but I don't necessarily know how to go about it. I don't necessarily trust myself. I love to, as much as you remember, because the reason why I asked this question, because a lot of my listeners of the podcast are there right now as they're listening to this, where they're like, I'm really unhappy, I'm misaligned, I'm stuck in a rut, I don't know how to get out. Nothing is working. And yet I feel paralyzed. I don't really know how to take those next steps. And I don't know if I can trust myself anymore because up until now, I have made some misaligned decisions. So how do I know that whatever it is that I'm interested in is actually mine? So there's a lot of that self-trust and lack of self-trust and doubt. And also people are just tired. And I know that you can both attest to that. Misaligned careers, and I know, say for Lauren, is also a very demanding job, is really, really draining. So do you ladies mind sharing what it was like before you joined the process, or when you were considering joining the process? What was your reality like? I don't know, whoever wants to start. Maybe Lauren.
Sure. Thanks, Vilma. So yeah, it's interesting when you're saying that. I literally got brought back to like a very physical feeling moment where I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? There's something very wrong here. And that was maybe 2 or 3 summers ago. And my role, so everyone knows, is like a chief of staff role to like the C-suite. So it is very demanding as a chief of staff. You're pretty much on 24/7, and you put out fires, you're also running special projects, et cetera. And I take full responsibility for signing myself up for that type of role, but that's the type of role I was in. So I was on vacation with my family in Europe when we were taking 6 weeks, and I was working like New York hours while everyone was based in SF. So I was still working most of my vacation, but I did take 1 week off where I was like, okay, I'm going to be laptops down. And I distinctly remember it was like the day before I was supposed to like get back onto the computer. And my husband and I went for a run around Hyde Park. And it wasn't like a crazy extensive run, but towards the very like last part of the run, I literally started like hyperventilating and not being able to breathe. And I broke down sobbing, and just saying, I don't want to open my laptop. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Like I've never had such a physical, my body telling me, I don't want to do this. And I had taken a break. And I think it's because my body was able to actually take a break, because otherwise I'm just in the doing, and the doing. My body had taken a break. It had taken a moment to pause. And it was like physically saying to me, I don't want to go back. For me, I've always said verbally, and even in most of my actions, I say my health is my most important. If I'm not healthy, if I'm not taking care of myself, how can I take care of my family? How can I do things? And the fact that my work was physically affecting my health, because I could feel it, the anxiety, and I never felt something like that to that extent before. I don't know if it was panic attack or I literally couldn't breathe and I was just sobbing. I was like, there's something wrong here. And that was like years ago. And I'm now at a chief of staff role in a different company. So like I did it to myself again. And we can talk about like when I had a moment to choose and I was like, well, I'll try this again. Yeah, I think that was the first wake up call. And then of course, just starting to read more about integrity and living in integrity. And then of course, Vilma, hearing your podcast, finally got to a point where I was like, okay, I need to make a change.
Thank you for sharing that, because I feel like a lot of the times if we're really consistently ignoring the whispers, the intuition, the signs, the thoughts, then the body will speak. But when the body speaks is really loud and really sometimes like completely takes over, right? To the point where you're like, no, 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 we can't do this anymore. You can't ignore it anymore. You literally will get sick if you continue doing that. And so the somatics and throughout our process, right? Because this process was holistic, we did speak a lot about how do you feel when you're choosing an option? That would always be my question is like, how does that feel in the body? Because the body cannot be hacked. The body is like, that's where all the wisdom is, right? And what's really interesting, because I feel like what I want to highlight what you shared, and I didn't know that story, by the way, Lauren, so it's really cool that you're sharing, is a lot of people do that. And I did that myself when I was like management consultant. And I was like, oh no, it's probably the industry. Let me go to like government. Government didn't work. Let me go to bank, right? And we're kind of selling ourselves a lie that like a different company, different industry, different management will be better. But at some point we're like, I can't do this to myself anymore. And I guess that's where you were at. I
think there's a lot of things that are different, but a lot of things that are the same. And I think I'm just realizing, and through the work that we did together, Vilma, and one of the reasons why I signed up for your work and why I appreciate it is because it's holistic and the fact that we had somatics, because I do believe in that. Even though sometimes I like bury the signal with my brain. I do believe in that. And I think through this work, again, I take responsibility. I signed up for this type of role. So it's not that there's anything wrong with the role or the people I work with or the company. It's the fact that that role is not the fit for me. It brings out a side of me, the people pleasing side of me, the side of me that I can do, but I shouldn't do, if that makes sense. And I think through our work together, Vilma, I realized that like, yes, I'm very good at it. I get rewarded at it, but it doesn't that doesn't mean that is what is best for me and where I am most aligned and most alive and most living in my purpose. I distinctly remember you asking me at one point, like, oh, organizing things. Cause I even thought, oh, maybe I can carry that to my next career. You're like, Lauren, do you really like to like organize things and produce things? And I'm like, you really pushed me on that. And I'm like, no, I guess not. Like I get validated for being good at it, but does that mean I enjoy the process of doing it? Or do I just like the pat on the back when I get it done? And you really pushed me to think about what that difference is and push me to feel that difference in my body. And so I think just being able to peel back those layers, but you're right about like same thing, different industry. I think I had to almost go through that experience to realize that. For myself.
And sometimes we need that experience. Otherwise, there'll forever be what if. What if I have gone to a different role, different tech company that had different value system, right? It's like nothing has gone wrong. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. But I love that you're, like I said, you're highlighting that because that's where a lot of people find themselves at. And then starting to discern what is truly like mine and what am I good at? And the fact that you're good at something, and by the way, I'm looking at both of you and I'm like, oh my goodness, you actually, it's not an accident you somehow ended up in one podcast because you both have similar pattern of like working through hardships. It's like a lot of the times your answer is work or working harder or doing more. Like both of you, they're both nodding. Yes. Yeah, like that's right. And I think that's, again, that's a survival of that's maybe coping mechanism from childhood. And we don't need to go there, but that is just one of the options one of the decisions we make as children is like, in order to be worthy and validated, I need to do things and I need to do them well. I love it. Thank you. Linda, I know that you were kind of zigzagging, right? You were in finance and went wellness and then went back to finance. Talk to me about like what that felt like for you as well. Cause you were kind of on the path and then you went back.
Yeah. So like from the very beginning of getting my first job, I mean, I went to school, I went to FIT in Manhattan. I thought I wanted to work in advertising. And when I started looking for jobs, I just started looking for admin jobs in hedge funds because I was like, actually, you know what? If I'm going to work 40 hours a week, I just want to make the most money possible. And so right out of school, you can make way more than if you're trying to do something in another industry. So I was like, yeah, I just want to make as much money as possible. And I was really young, like 22. It was tough to be in that environment, but I just was like, nope, this is how you make the most money. This is what you do. And over time, I started realizing I'm like, I actually don't like this. There aren't a lot of nice people in that industry. It's like being in a Shark Tank. And I just didn't fit in it. I'm not an aggressive like, numbers type of person. And it wasn't my environment. And I kept forcing it. And then I became a single mom. So I was like, oh no, like I have to stay in this because now I have to take care of my daughter. Eventually got to a point where I was like, I hate coming here. I'm crying. My stomach hurts. I can't eat. I can't sleep. And it got so bad. It got to the point where at this point I had just, met my husband and we were talking for a little while already, but I called him crying in the bathroom and I was like, my stomach is killing me. I can't go back in there. And he was like, just leave, just walk out. We will figure this out. That's what I did. I walked out, which I've never done before. Like I would never leave a job without giving notice or having a job lined up. I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't be that person anymore. The people pleasing, the dealing with the challenging, stressful like personalities. I just couldn't take it. And when I left, I really was in shock. I think I slept. I can't tell you how much I slept for like the next 2 weeks. I didn't realize like my adrenaline and the stress, I didn't realize even how burnt out I was. And I was sick all the time. I had a sore throat all the time. After like 2 weeks of sleeping, I was like, okay, what am I going to do right now? And during this time, I had been working out and I loved fitness and I was starting to get people to ask me like, "Oh, will you train me? Or you should be training people." I was like, "I don't know." And I just kind of started training friends. I'm like, "Well, we can work out together. Let's see how it goes." In a few months' time, now I was getting more people training and I luckily had some savings, so I opened a small studio in Queens in New York. And I was able to build up that business. But then COVID hit and that really knocked things out of whack. That took a back seat, the training. So at that point, like we were moving out to Long Island and I was thinking, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I need a little remote part-time job, something to supplement the income because training was still kind of on hold. So I took a remote job working in HR and the people, they're so nice. I just get like a regular, consistent paycheck. I'm not stressed. I'm home. And this was really what I needed, like for my nervous system. Anything with money would stress me out because that was always like a top goal, more so than what do I like or what do I want to do. So I think taking a step back and getting a little part-time job to kind of calm my nervous system so money is coming in, but also giving me time to like build up my own business has really helped me to kind of balance things out as I grow my training business, my personal training and nutrition business.
And then what happened? Because then at some point you joined the program. So why were you, what was happening where you're like, I think I need some support?
Vilma, I would listen to your podcasts and they would help me because, with sales, working up your skills to really increase sales, then I was like, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe it's something else. And I would listen to your podcasts and I'm like, I need to join your group because if this is what I'm supposed to be doing, I'll get clarity on it. And if it's not, maybe some other new idea that's somehow tied into wellness will come up. So your course ended up being like confirmation. And I have zero doubts Whereas in the past, sometimes I'd have doubts and still not know should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? That's gone. I don't have that feeling at all anymore.
Yeah, I love that because sometimes I remember too when I was kind of at the beginning of the transition stages and I was rejecting the idea of being a coach because my ego wouldn't let me consider that. I talk a lot about that on my podcast. I remember I would just talk to God and my higher self and I would be like, just tell me what to do. Just tell me specifically what to do and I'll do it and I'll commit it and I'll work so hard. I just want to know what it is. And I know that a lot of career changers are the same. It's just like, just tell me, like they come to the session and be like, just tell me what I need to do. Right. And I feel like until we have that resolution and clarity of like, no, I want to commit to that. I can see now why and how it's aligned. It sometimes is hard to fully build it. And sometimes the universe will not send clients your way or aligned clients your way because your commitment is not fully there. You're not grounded in what you're doing. So I love that like sort of this acted as a confirmation, but also I think showed you that you have so much more to give and add, not just, you working out with people, but there are other gifts that you have. And it's about owning them, right? Owning them and proudly kind of starting to weave them into whatever it is that you are doing, which for you is kind of expanding your packages. And we'll talk a little more about that. And I love what you said about nervous system. And it's so common to hear that a lot. Sometimes when people leave roles where they were completely burnt out, sometimes they need up to like 6 to 12 months to recover. And I mean, like they're not working. If they can afford it, they're literally just there, like going for walks, sleeping in, not talking to people, like really kind of rewiring their nervous system just because there was like years and years and years of essentially abuse on the nervous system, right? So the hormonal system is off, energy is off, there is adrenal fatigue. There are so many things that are happening that Linda, you would be much better at explaining than me. But also, so when we're thinking of career change or we're thinking of career change strategy, we always want to make sure that we're counting in our nervous system and be like, okay, what's my risk tolerance? Where am I at? How much energy I have? To see also my listeners are astrology lovers. So like Linda is a Virgo and Lauren is double Aries. Are you double or triple? Double Aries.
Double Aries.
Right. So like with the double Aries, she's like, I can do it. It's done. Like, let me do it. Like, like really excited. And she tends to overcommit sometimes. Whereas with Linda, she's a little more careful and more perfectionistic and she like overthinks. So for her, it's almost the opposite. So she's a little more risk averse, right? So like we also need to just count that in of like, what's my blueprint? What do I need? What will create safety for me as I'm like bringing in this new chapter in my life? So that's really cool. Another question that I have for you ladies is, what were some of your biggest sort of fears around career change? Because I assume that's what has been stopping you to fully like for Lauren, for you to identify it and kind of make a decision, and Linda, for you to commit. Can you share about that?
For me, I think it was interesting because I think this journey helped me even really understand what my fears were. I think my desire going into this and what I just wanted so much is what you're saying, Vilma, like, what is my purpose in life? So I just feel like all my life, I've so envied the people who like just knew they wanted to do that. And I see people in my even in my current career where they're like, I'm like, damn, you are built to be a marketer. You are an amazing whatever. And you can just see that they are in their aligned purpose and they're like awesome at it. And I feel like for so much of my life, I'm very good at a lot of different things, but there's not like a thing. I'm like, so what's my thing? Like, tell me my thing and I will like give it my all. But like, what is my thing? So that was my first like desire. And I didn't realize the fear. It wasn't that I was afraid. I just didn't know what. And then now through the process that we did all the holistic work to get to the blueprint. So I know what the what is or what the what would feel like and look like for me. That's when I realized what my fears are. Because when it was like, okay, these are the things you can do, Lauren, go do them. I'm like, now's the time. Like I've been talking a big game. And as an Aries, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Like and I have no problem taking action in so many other phases of my life. Literally, like I'm just known as being action oriented, which is probably why I do the role that I do. But then when it came to actually being like, okay, here are your 3 aligned options. We've talked about them. We've vetted them. We've done all the work around it. Vilma, I was like, okay, gung ho. And then I found myself pausing and hesitating and delaying. And I think as we worked through that together through this course. It's a fear about money. My desire for freedom and independence is tied to feeling like I need to be making money. And if I am not making money, then I'm not going to be free and independent. And I know that we weren't necessarily going to go into childhood things, and I don't necessarily want to go there, but just like for me, I don't ever want to feel trapped. I don't ever want to feel dependent on someone. And so the fact that I make a certain amount of money, I think in working with through this process, it's like, okay, if I don't make enough, am I going to feel restricted and trapped and not free? So that's, again, I didn't know that fear as much until it was like, okay, now you know your thing, go pursue it. And I found myself a little bit hesitant to do that. But again, through the work and through the financial module, gaining clarity and confidence in knowing, okay, you have enough and you will be okay, has really been helpful, not only for me, but for my partner. Because I think, Linda, another great thing about us being paired together is we have kids to provide for. We have partners whose lives are also involved in how much, it's a partnership in terms of like bringing in money. And if one person's taking a break, what does that mean for the other person? So it's a ecosystem here. And so the financial module of Vilma's course, which is one of many modules, I think was helpful, not only for me, but for my partner. And so we've actually done the homework that Elizabeth, the coach, guided us through, and it's been really, really helpful for me in terms of gaining confidence to conquer that fear, which was more of it's not a fear founded in facts. It's a fear founded in feelings.
So good. And I think financial topics usually are that. They're very rarely grounded in factual information and actual bank statements. Okay. They're grounded in, okay, where am I coming from? What provides me safety? And sort of for you, like, I love that you have that identified that link between like freedom, being trapped, and earning money. If I'm not earning money, I'm not free, I'm trapped, and I'm suffocating. I can't do it. It's like, it's just not allowed in my world. No matter, I'll do whatever it takes. Even if I'm dying at my job, I'm going to keep it to be free. And that's how those patterns work. They're very, very sort of, it's an iron grasp on us, and we don't feel like we have a choice, which is really, really scary then, because then we don't even consider alternatives. And notice even now, Lauren, as you were like describing that fear, which is very common and probably everyone can identify with that, no matter how much they're earning, is that our mind then gives us that binary situation of like, okay, if I stay at this job, I'll continue to be free and earn this money. But if I leave, I'll probably be poor and live under the bridge in the box. Right. And so I really need to think about like leaving. Right. And then my partner is going to be like, he will be stressed as well. So I don't want that. Whereas this is not a binary situation. This is like, okay, how do I still provide myself safety? How do I still feel free and earn the money? And then we talked about bridge, transitions. And for you is maybe going back to consulting and also give back to my purpose and start building that out and seeing that through. It doesn't have to be either or.
Right. And I can, through the financial module, I realized like, I don't need, I'm just aware that there's so many different people in so many different positions here that I am fortunate enough to be in a situation where I don't need to be making as much as I'm making now. And for me, I'm like, I can sort of dial back the intensity, or I don't have to take a role, even though I'm compensate. I don't need to be compensated as much as I am. And therefore maybe I don't have to give my entire life to work, And so that was really eye-opening for me.
And I love what you said also about when we identified the path, like an aligned business for you. And then at first you were like, yes, I'm going to do it. Yes. Right. I identify as an Aries with that so much. We love beginnings. We're so good with beginnings.
So good with beginnings.
Yeah. So. We're like, the commitment. Yes, I'll do it. Okay. I have it booked. And then it's about showing up and finishing things. But that's why we want to set goals. And that's why we want to identify things, because when we do that, what happens, everything that has been stopping us up until then will resurface for us to see. So we can work through that. We can work through fears that are irrational. We can work through childhood patterns. We can work through survival mechanism, right? Which is not triggered when you are not challenging yourself to actually look for alignment. Right. And so a lot of the times when people see that inner content, it will come up and it will be a lot and it will be at the same time, they freak out and they retrieve and they run to the familiar. right? And our job, that's why we started with self-coaching model. That's why we talked about footwork and how to feel the emotions, how to create safety in the body, because we know that this will happen. We're not scared. We know, like, we expect this resistance to come up because that's a big life change. Of course, there will be a lot of fears and you need to work through them. For all of you who are listening, don't be afraid if you're in a similar stage where you're about to commit. Like, don't be afraid to lean in, have the tools, have the support, but lean into going through that. Otherwise, you're going to just distract yourself, go back to the familiar, and then wake up in 2 or 3 months feeling even worse than when we started. When we find something that we really love and we like rob ourselves off of an opportunity to actually do it full time and lead a really fulfilling life. And honestly, when we fully embrace fulfillment, money always flows. It's just how it is because it's energy. Because I just recorded a podcast this morning, another podcast about it. It's almost like when someone claims their authenticity, if we look at like spirituality and energetic realms, they almost like light up, like they become like a bulb. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like they become visible. And then it's almost like they have that energy behind them. They become a magnet to a lot of things, right? But in order to get there, we need to go through those theories and run those models, because this is kind of just like societal programming, familial situations that were downloaded into us that, of course, it's not going to be so straightforward. And also, if it was so easy, everyone would do it. There's a reason why there's only such a small amount of people who love their job and actually earn really good living from it. And these are the people who are willing to do this inner work. Or they're just completely delusional. Also, that helps sometimes. That helps sometimes. You know how you meet those like entrepreneurs and they're just delusional. They just believe so wholeheartedly that whatever they'll do, they will succeed.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes. That's the law of the universe. Is like, if you believe it, if you put it out there and you claim it and you talk about it as if it's done, right? It happens. Like, to some extent, maybe Elon Musk is like that, where he's like a little bit, I don't know him, right? But like, to some extent, I admire him because he's just like really delusional. What everyone is telling him that something is not possible, he finds a way to get it done. You can love him or hate him. I'm not going to go there, right? Yep. But it's kind of delusion, and I love delusion. We need to be a little delusional, all of us.
There's definitely that in the tech startup world for sure.
The confidence of the white middle-aged man. That's what we all talk.
I've also realized there's the delusion, and for people who have a big chip on their shoulder too. Like they feel like they've got something to prove to the rest of the world. And again, all things can be healthy within a certain realm, and then they can be shadow sides. That's another.
Such a good point. Exactly right. If you are like always hungry, and then even when you're living in the palace and you have everything and you're still thinking you don't have enough, like the billionaires who are losing sleep over their billions, right? So that is a problem too. Okay, cool. This is really fun. I'm having so much fun. Let's talk about the process. So for you, generally, when you look back, what were some of the biggest aha moments or breakthroughs where dots connected when it comes to you like claiming your authenticity, or maybe just getting to know yourself in the blueprint process? What were some of the highlights for you?
Yeah. So I'm nodding my head because one thing that really stands out to me, and we learned so much, so many different tools, but I think the highlight for me was, and I'm not just saying this because of your audience, even though I am part of your audience, was the astrology reading with Kat. I was like blown away by it. I felt so seen. And I was blown away that Kat, a person who I had never met, was able to do that and read that and talk about things. She saw me so clearly, even more clearly than like I wanted to see myself even, and just reminded me of who I am. And I think that was an aha for me, because I felt like, and I think I had a moment in our group call where I think, Vilma, you're like, whoa, like I didn't even know you were an Aries before, but I see it now, because I was just angry and fired up that I had lost my way so much. And through Kat's astrology reading, I think she pointed to the sides of me that I've been leaning into that aren't, again, they're there, but they're not the most aligned for me. And so she even showed me how I pretty much lost my way, but also reminded me of who I really am. And that brought me to the feelings and the moments and the times of my life where I have been aligned, because it's not like you're aligned everywhere all the time, right? I think we all have moments where we do feel aligned, and we do feel like a light. We do feel like a magnet for other people. And So I think that was a highlight for me, amongst other things, like the tools that we learned how to reframing that tool, our thought patterns and how that creates a cycle with our actions. That's been super helpful for me. Again, not just in career, but in everything that I'm doing. And then the financial model as well. And of course, the blueprint process to get to what I was seeking, which is, what is it that I'm meant to be doing? So I think those were like in general the highlights, but the first thing that just immediately came to my mind was the astrology reading with Kat.
I love that. I remember that because I think like that was kind of like the turning point for you where like things kind of clicked and you like woke up and you lit up
Yes.
in the universe, right? Because I think it was like the blueprint and then having that reading and putting it all together where you're like, hold on, like this is not the authentic me. And I didn't even realize how much I had disconnected. And that doesn't happen overnight. It's like little by little, right? Where we kind of I don't know, we betray our truth or we decide to stay quiet when we want to speak up. Like all those like mini decisions lead up to us completely disconnecting from our true north. And I think for you in astrology, well, if your north node is in Aries, then it's in Libra. And for you, it's kind of have a lot of Aries energy, and Libra is kind of like almost past life energy and things that we need to overcome and not necessarily be in use in this lifetime. But it's familiar, it's easy, it's available for you, it's in your toolkit. Therefore, there's always that, ooh, goosebumps. There's always like that pull for us to go back there because it's kind of like home. I've done it. I've been that. It's easy. Let me just do it. But really, where the excitement, light, joy, energy, creation is at is by embracing what your soul intended to do this lifetime. And it has not one Aries, it has like double Aries and it's exalted. And it's so there's so much Aries energy. Where even Kat was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Please be Aries. Like this is just
please be yourself.
Just please be yourself. And so for those of you who don't know, we have Kat who does career and astrology readings in the program. That's what Lauren is referring to. I love that. Linda, what was for you? What was the highlights or aha moments for you?
So the human design chart, I to this day am still blown away. I'm a manifesting generator. It is insane. It explains me to a T. My thoughts, my how I make decisions. If something isn't aligned, the feeling I would get is frustration, and that's very true. The chronotype, the sleep chart, that 100%, my sleep schedule was very close to what was described. I think that when we were filling out the blueprint and one of the sections lists like, what's your ideal day and your work time? What'll you be doing? Like, I knew all these things, but I just like to see that all organized and written out on paper was like, oh my God, like this is going to determine how I would make my schedule. This is how I'm trying to make my schedule now because I'm not as tired anymore. I don't feel as burnt out. The other thing, like, because you guys were speaking about Kat, so that reading for me was amazing because what she said kind of explains, like, in a way, why I've picked past jobs. Now I understand why I chose jobs because I'm always looking to make as much money as possible, but I was letting that override my authenticity and what I actually want to do. But she explains why, in a way, like why I'm like that and why I've chosen past jobs. Before I started this course with you, Vilma, I would think like, I'm all over the place. Why did I pick that? What was I even doing there? And that really connected the dots, the reading and the blueprint. It all makes sense. It all makes sense now. So I definitely don't feel all over the place about what I've done in the past because I'm a Virgo. And I think my rising sign is Taurus, and then my moon sign is Virgo again. So it makes sense now.
Is like blueprint sometimes without astrology is not as effective, and astrology without the blueprint is also not as fascinating. They both validate each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's why sometimes
100%.
if we just get like an astrology reading, we get excited and we feel seen and validated. And then we're like, but what does that mean? Like, what now, right? And the same with blueprint, where like, well, I did the blueprint. I remember Haley from our course, from our cohort, where she was like, can I trust this? Like, is it really me? Like, is it really the blueprint, right? So I think those two together give us like context and almost like, I don't know, like it's like a map of myself. And then I can navigate past decisions, find acceptance over past decisions, and navigate the future decisions from this new sense of like alignment. And I think that is such a gift. Like that blueprint for me alone is already such a beautiful North Star for all of you to take if you want to use it. And in the future, just make more aligned decisions in your life. Lauren, do you want to add something?
Definitely. Just to build on what you were saying and what, as Linda was speaking, I think one thing I want people to know is, even though the first thing out of my mouth was the astrology reading, it's the sum of all the parts that you provided us and all the tools. Like if I were to have just done the astrology reading, it's like, okay, like, but you teach us how to overcome gremlins, to anticipate, to normalize things, to push us in different directions, like to lean into fears, to give us all these other tools. So I just want to say, like, yes, like, for me, the highlight, that was a big aha moment to me. But even the things that like were just like painful for me to do were important for me to do. Like, even if I didn't like love doing it. And it's literally all the pieces and the building blocks and how they come together that make this made this whole program successful for me, at least.
Love that. Thank you for adding that. Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like, especially when we have this holistic lens, we understand that career change, just like any change process, it doesn't even have to be career, is very multidimensional. And there are like all the way from like spiritual purpose things to practical little things of like, how do I plan my day while I still have my day job? How do I sort out my finances? How do I do that? Right. And so I think a lot of the times the reason why I would not resonate with like other career, like traditional career coaching, is because they would cover such a small aspect and they would leave people hanging with everything else on their own, right? And if you leave me with my gremlins, guess what? They're going to eat me. So even if I identify, you help me as a career counselor identify a really great business idea, I'm probably not going to do it.
Yeah.
Because my Virgo self will come in and be like, who are you to do this? What do you think? Like, you're never going to succeed. People will laugh at you. I also want to talk, because we're kind of talking in riddles a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about like arriving to that realization, what you want to do. And if you feel comfortable with sharing, maybe you want to share of like, what was that decision? How did dots connect for you? What would be an aligned path and how you want to go about it? And also want to talk about the non-linearity of this journey, because we were together for 5 months and sometimes we have this expectation that it's only going to be up, and with every month I'm going to feel better and better. But really, when we go through different stages, each stage had like ups and downs and sometimes really lows, right? Where we need to feel the emotions or just take a step back and be like, this is a lot, or I don't know, go on holiday. So I want to talk a little bit about that, like arriving to that realization. And I think Lauren, you said a little bit, we're like, oh, I arrived it, and then yay, and then you kind of be like, okay, like I need to step back. Like this is a lot. Can you share, like, Lauren, maybe for you, I'll start with you now. What was it like for you, and what was it, if you want to share?
Yeah, so I think what I'll share is very clear to me, because where I am is I'm working through my transition, but for me, my pillars became very clear. So it was around, one pillar is autonomy, freedom, and independence became very clear. Another one is creativity and self-expression. Another one is being like somebody who's like an inspirer, innovator, a leader, trendsetter, some type of bucket like that. And the other one is entrepreneur, like entrepreneurship, being my own boss, sort of tied to autonomy and freedom, but business, entrepreneurship, and strategy. So those are like my 4 pillars. And that to me, I'm like, yes, like when I say it, when I feel it, I'm like, that is me. That is who I want to be. That is me in my best self in different phases of my life. And so from there, we like looked at different career options or modalities, like different things. And I think that chart was really helpful. It's like, okay, what are 3 things that you could potentially do and be, I think, and we ranked those. And one of them was to like go back and be a freelance brand, or go back to brand and design strategy, but do that in a freelance capacity. And that is good, but it's not like the best, but like it is very good, a very good option for me. Another one that I was playing around with was interior designer, Vilma, if you remember, and we talked about that. And this other one is like this lifestyle curator, creator, something like that I it checks all the boxes of what I want to do, but I'm still figuring out what exactly that is. So that's like the phase that I'm in. And so in working with Vilma, it's about, okay, well, how do you transition to figure out what that is? Can you do that while you're working at your current job? Or do you need to like leave your current job and then do that? Or do you need to leave your current job, transition while you figure out what that, thing is, this lifestyle curator, content person? I think where we're at is that I am going to be working to transition and do freelance brand and design strategy while figuring out what my own business is. And so what's funny is when we arrived at that, I'm like, yes, like it all feels like these are all the things. And then again, my Aries is like, yep, I'm going to do it. Even when the group class, I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start making calls to people to get freelance jobs. And I fully expected in that moment that like the second I signed off the group call, I would send out emails to my network to see what types of like jobs were available. I was very confident that there would be jobs available. A week went by and we were going to have our next check-in class. I hadn't done a single thing. And I was like, what? Why? Like, and I realized I was like holding back because I was like, okay, if I put it out there to the universe and the universe is like, okay, yeah, gotcha. Here's a freelance gig for you. Like, Lauren, we'd love for you to work on this project. Like, then I would have to leave my job. And because when I dissected why, like, these people you can reach out to see if there's projects available and whatnot, didn't do it. And I had to show up to the group. And the reason why I really loved the group is like, it's accountability. I just showed up to the group. I had to tell Vilma I was full of bravado. I was full of Aries fire. And I didn't do it. But the lesson for me is like, well, why? And that's where I was like, I'm afraid. I was afraid that the universe would actually give me my option of what I've said I wanted. But the reality is like, are you ready for it?
But that's what it was, right? When we identified, we set the goal, and then that's when everything resurfaces and nothing has gone wrong. Like you had the support and you had the financial conversations with a financial coach, right? To kind of start working through them and remove them, keep them, discard them. At least you're like sorting through them, right? But you're not getting scared by them. And to give some context to the listeners, because I haven't spoken about this process on the podcast, I think once a sort of the group ladies, once they finish the blueprint and astrology reading, we identify the pillars, and pillars are kind of like the core essence of who they are around career. And they not necessarily are about skills. They're just like the essence. The way that I see them literally as like little columns in someone. And I even see like how much each is important, but that's just how I see it. But everyone can kind of create that for themselves. And then we compare that against the options that you have identified, were interested in, that came up like in the ideas bank. And what sometimes happens, people do idolize or romanticize a career. For instance, for you, Lauren, where you're like, I think I would be a great interior designer because I have a great taste and a good eye and right. Like, and you are all of those things.
I have a consulting background, so I know how to like shepherd people through a process. Like,
like, so mentally, cognitively, it makes sense. But then we look at your pillars and we have freedom and we have entrepreneur and we have whatever, I forgot, what else did you say, right? All of them don't necessarily are aligned with interior designer career, because interior design, as I know, which is the podcast with Nikita that you sort of got you to join the program, is a very sort of a lot of the times boring, behind the computer, slow job where you need to do essentially what the clients tell you to do. And as an Aries, you will not like it because you're like, I know better, but I think you should use red, not freaking beige. And then you're in internal conflict. So then that career, it might be fun at the beginning because there's novelty, but it won't be sustainable. And what we're doing here, we're identifying long-term sustainable career for you. So even though this like nameless fruit of your kind of lifestyle entrepreneur influencing business is, being conceived, but I know that it's going to be super aligned with you and you will enjoy it and you'll mold it in the way that you need it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's this type of conversation that like with you to like push and help hold a mirror to me, like was super helpful.
Yeah. And also you inspired my I'm pre-recording podcasts, and one of them is like, how bad do you want it? I literally called it. And that was the conversation Lauren and I had when Lauren came. I think it was another call after when you came in and we were talking about timelines. I think transition timelines and what does that look like? And you said, well, listen, there are so many circumstances in my life, whatever they are, they're challenging. And I think I might need to postpone or change my timeline. Right. And I think for you, you treated that as a sign that I should wait.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that pleased those parts of you that didn't want to leave because they're fearful. Right.
Yes.
And so our conversation was about, okay, so what if that's not a sign for you to slow down? What if it's a question, how bad do you want it? And are you willing to actually take that step?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to share on that one?
Yeah, no. So first of all, again, for those who might not know, or it's not evident in the podcast, like Vilma is amazing at both recognizing when you need like feminine, empathetic energy and when you just need to be called out on your bullshit. So like, and I think I respond very well. And I think Vilma probably acknowledges this, that like, I respond well to being called out on my bullshit. And so like Vilma, I think when I was sort of telling her, oh, I think I might need to just pause. I think because of this circumstance in my life, this circumstance in my life, like, I'm just going to maybe, I know what I need to do, but I'm just going to do it later. And she's like, Lauren, and she pretty much threw down the gauntlet in that way of like, life is going to be lifing. That's now one of my new mantras, Vilma.
Yes.
Not just career. Life be lifing. Life will be lifing. How bad, this is the universe essentially, like you've got all the tools, you've got all the things. How bad do you want? How much are you willing to commit to it? And you have a video module also where you essentially say that and give us the tools to treat this like, I mean, in my life, I'm always managing projects and programs for people. I create timelines. I'm responsible for getting things done at a certain amount of time. You pretty much were like, you need to do that for yourself. You're willing to do that for other people. And you didn't say that, but that was my takeaway. I was like, wow, like I'm really putting myself last here. I'm doing so many projects at work, prioritizing that over this project, which should be the most important project. I should be doing this project first, spending time and treating it just like I do business projects and programs that I lead and that I run. And again, it was through your questioning and pushing of like, well, how bad do you want it? And I think about people who are single parents who have night jobs, who work to, either make extra income or go back to school. And I was like, if they can do it, I can effing do this. Like, so I think for me, that was a big wake up call of, first of all, like showing that like it's these, we call them gremlins, these old ways or behaviors will come back up and our brain can wrap them up in a way where it's just really easy for us to be like, oh yeah, to believe that story. But gremlins are tricky because gremlins can seem very, very rational. And it's a story that you can tell yourself and that you can tell others. And it feels comfortable. It feels comfortable to everyone. It felt comfortable to my partner to be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to, wait a couple more months to then do the transition. It feels comfortable to everybody. It's on me now. It's on me. How bad do I want it? I have no excuses anymore. And that can almost be scary. I don't have the excuse of not knowing what it is. I have no excuse of saying like, well, I don't know if this or that. Like, there's no more excuses. I have the tools, I have the knowledge. So it's like, how bad do I want it? I think that's ultimately what it comes down to after you have all the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah. How bad do you want it, especially if you want to be an entrepreneur? And that's sort of the podcast that you inspired me to create is like, if you want an easy, safe life, work for someone else.
Yeah.
But if your soul is asking you to follow your purpose, to be the leader, to be the light, to support others, then your job is to overcome that, because not only you and parts of you and your ancestors depend on it, it's also the people who are waiting for you to step in and do this work.
Yeah.
Because they might need you. Sorry, go ahead.
For sure. And it's interesting, Vilma, I think we talked about the fact that, because I was like, you know what, in my 20s and my early 30s, when I didn't have my daughter and when I wasn't married, I had this like more fearless spirit. And I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And part of me, I think I shared with you that I feel like, oh, now that I have, these responsibilities, I've become more risk averse. And you reminded me that A, that's natural, but B, that I can still work through that. That's not an excuse anymore. So it's this duality of like, not shaming myself for it, but reminding myself that it's not too late. It's not too late for me. I don't have to have this narrative of, oh, it's something I should have done in my 20s. It's something that I can definitely still do now. And so that's something that I think was also very not eye-opening, but insightful for me that I'm realizing too.
Yeah. And also just for you both, because you have children, is like, what example do you want to set for them?
Yep,
Don't
exactly.
you want to set an example of like, hey, I was in my, late 30s, 40s, and I changed career and I followed my passion and my purpose. And then they're like, oh, that's normal. That's what people do. Then you normalize it for them. They then become fearless in pursuing their authenticity.
100%. That's a big motivation for me, for sure.
Change is life. Don't be afraid to embrace change.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, Linda, sorry. I really want to hear about you, like you arriving to that decision, because you also had a little bit of like, I called it like zigzagging, where you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing this and I love this. And we're like creating this new kind of concept for your business and business plan. And then you're like, oh, I think maybe I should go and help my husband with his business. And I love that. I love that we can talk about it. Can you share more? Because it's the same as
Yes.
Lauren, just like different, like different circumstances.
Yes. So in the middle of all of this, we're gaining momentum. We're planning how to build my coaching business. And then my husband and I start talking, and his business is growing rapidly, and he needed help. And I've worked with him in the past. He's amazing to work with. So I was like, maybe, if he needs help, I could do that. I like working with him. I like the business he's in. The job would have the type of flexibility. Like there were certain boxes that it could have checked off. And also, on top of that, I also have a little bit of a background in real estate. So, real estate came up again because there were a couple of reoccurring themes that kept popping up for me. Of course, I have a conversation with him during my coaching process with you, Vilma, and I'm filling out one of our worksheets and I'm saying, maybe I can do this. Maybe this is it. Maybe I didn't realize and it was in front of my face. And to your point, Lauren, about her energy, that sometimes it's loving. She called me out on it and she helped me so much because you said, is that going to be meaningful enough for you? Because part of my blueprint was I am looking to help people in meaningful, deep ways. And so you literally dissipated these ideas in that one response to my worksheet, and really put that to bed, which has been great because it hasn't come up anymore. And it's really helped me to hone in on and focus on my business. I'm pouring more energy into my business without other distractions. Because that's another thing that I felt would happen is the minute you start focusing, you're like, I'm going to do this now. Something else pops up. Maybe it's another job opportunity or something else that like tries to pull you away from what you're supposed to be doing, or maybe it's a test.
Yes.
I think you said it's like a test from the universe. But you really helped me to pass that test. But I'm happy to say that after that, that's all been put to rest because that had been a reoccurring thing, even with the real estate. That's been going on for years. And that would confuse me and delay, my decision making and what I should be doing for my aligned career. So,
Yeah, the commitment,
Vilma,
right? Yeah, the commitment. And I love that you're
yes.
saying that because for you, probably real estate is similar, like maybe interior design for Lauren, which is like, it's probably would score. It would get some scores. There are some elements like, yeah, you would be doing meaningful work. You're helping people find, a home, right? There's certain things that we're like, okay, that would make sense. But there's just a difference between something that's aligned and something we're trying to make aligned because we want to convince ourselves because it would be an easier, more comfortable decision. And we know it deep inside because it feels different. But our brain sometimes will take over and be like, no, but hey, look, but it's aligned. Look, it's aligned with my blueprint, but it's like not the most aligned. And our job is like, listen, we're here for such a short blip. Like we're just here for, look at our lives. Like, honestly, so quick, right? And do we really want to spend time on something that is okay, lukewarm, It's fine. Right? Or do we want to really leave, like make an impact? Because many of you, right, most of you in the group are like light workers. In one way or another, you're here to support others or inspire others. So every minute you spend not doing that, again, like I said, you're robbing off of you, your authenticity, your soul, but also other people. And so that blueprint will become your Vilma of calling you out. And every time where you're like distracted, come back to it and be like, okay, no, honestly, if I'm really objective, if I plug it in, is it really aligned? Because sometimes there could be portfolio options of you adding other business ideas or expanding your business that could totally be in alignment.
Right.
But it's kind of like holding that mirror for yourself and be like, okay, no, like honestly, will it be? And hopefully I wasn't that rude because you guys are like, oh yeah, she calls you out. I do, but like that's with love.
No, you weren't rude, not rude, but you can just cut through the confusion. And that's one thing I have to say, that's one of the many things that has been great about this program with you, is that you're not always like, well, what do you think about it? It's like, sometimes I don't know. And you would give a proper response to help guide me
Yep.
into finding the answer. Or if I would ask you directly, what do you think? You would give me an answer because I'm asking for your opinion.
Yes.
And that's been really helpful there. When you can take out the guesswork, you do. So
Yeah.
I really appreciated that during the course.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for validating my Aries. Yes, I am very straightforward. But also, at the end of the day, I would always tell you you're the boss, right? Like you're the boss. As an intuitive, I can sometimes give you even some feedback that perhaps you don't feel or see yet. But at the end of the day, you need to kind of take it on, filter it through and be like, okay, that resonates, that doesn't. And I love when people come to me and be like, no, I love it. I'm like, good for you. Like you went in, you like felt it out, and you're like, no, that does not resonate. I'm sorry. And I'm like, amazing. Love it. Okay, mindful of the time. One of the another questions that I quickly wanted to ask you in terms of this process is like what people sometimes don't understand is when they embark on this kind of like big authentic career, pursuing authentic career, other areas of their lives are affected too, and it kind of bleeds into how they show up, maybe in the partnership, maybe at their day job. Did you notice any of those changes for like for you ladies?
Yeah, I'll say that even just once we had the blueprint, and even though we're then figuring out like then what does that mean, et cetera. And I would say even before that, Vilma, during some of the calls, you would be like, okay, this isn't a problem with your job. You have a problem with boundaries, Lauren. I mean, again, I don't mean to make you sound harsh, but I was like, oh, I got to work on my boundaries. Like, regardless of what job I have, it's not the job. It's the fact that I need to work on not taking on everyone's problems and trying to fix everyone's problems. Like, and so even that like type of coaching would be helpful. But then once we got the pillars, I'm like, okay, how can I take my existing role at work and just lean into the things where I can really celebrate and leverage like the creative aspect of things? How do I make my current role more creative? How do I find more things in what I'm doing already to do the freedom and to find more, carve out things that give me more freedom and independence? So I think just knowing the pillars, it applies to like so many other aspects of your life, and the thought frame, the thought downloads and how to reframe. So the tools are just so applicable beyond, and again, even into like personal life, personal relationships. So I found them extremely helpful, and how it actually affects other parts of my life. I think it's just like, okay, now recognizing patterns or seeing things where in other parts of your life you might not be fully aligned. And it's just opening your eyes to that. And again, you have the tools now to help you get more aligned in those areas.
Isn't that crazy? I love it when it happens because then you're like, oh, do I really want to wear that sweater? And is it really
Yeah,
me? Or do you know, like even simple things sometimes like that.
for sure.
Am I drinking alcohol because people used to me being tipsy and happy? And am I people pleasing? And do I really want to drink alcohol? That's me last weekend. Oh, goodness. Linda, what about you? Did you notice any change?
It's funny. It's funny that you mentioned the clothes because yeah, after, I mean, it's a superficial thing, but I realized some of the stuff that I had, I'm like, why do I have this? This isn't this is not how I want to present myself. I literally just did a massive donation and just got stuff that actually represents me. I've also noticed a lot, like I'm paying very much attention to my energy and my energy levels. So, I realized like mornings are best for me to work on my business. Saturday mornings are the best, I guess, because I like Saturday mornings are pretty open for me. I think just paying more attention to myself and my needs and what I'm trying to do and doing it at times that work for me. These are all things that I've begun to pay attention to because of this course. Like I think before I was just like, just get everything done. Or yeah, that's fine. Just wear that. Just put that on. And now I'm like, hold on, does that really feel like me? And if I'm like hesitant or frustrated, I'm like, no, that's not it then. And um, just making decisions in general in terms of like in any aspect has gotten easier because of this course, because I can think of my frustration, hesitation, my decision making process, and the thought models. I can do them in my head rather quickly now, and that helps me navigate much quicker through what I'm trying to figure out. And so I feel more authentic to myself in a lot of areas way more often than I did before. So I feel more connected. I tell everyone about your course because it's helped me so much on so many levels. It's been great.
I love that. I love it. And also what both of you are sharing, it's not like rocket science. We all like know it, right? But it's almost like we need to go through certain experience for it to connect and for us to start noticing it and actually like attending to it and be like, no, I'm not going to wear like sweatshirt again because I feel very feminine today and I want to do it. We know it all, but for some reason, we don't always give ourselves full permission to actually do it because we think it's vain or silly or stupid. But no, it's not. Everything is an extension of everything. Cool. I love that. Okay. I also want to share about like I want to ask about what are the next steps for you, what you're doing now. But before we go there, I wanted to ask you, that's the question I ask every career changer is what advice would you give your past self who was kind of suffering or before the process, or just people who are you, right? Like 6, 7 months ago, or maybe a year ago, Lauren, for you several years ago, what would be your advice for them?
Don't wait. Don't continue to distract yourself. Like that's what I constantly do. I distract myself with my to-do list, with other people's problems. Really great at solving other people's problems, but so I'm like, don't wait. Like if you feel the signals, if you have that cue, if you just intuitively know, I regret waiting. And again, every journey I needed to go through my process, but don't wait is what I would say.
Yeah. If you feel the misalignment, if you feel the pain, don't wait because probably it's not going to get better. It usually gets worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you. What about you, Linda? What would your advice be?
Just don't beat yourself up. Don't be hard on yourself. Because if something doesn't feel right, it's okay that it doesn't feel right. You're going to figure it out. Like breath work has really helped me, Reiki. Do things that will help calm that stress down and start to really think, what are things that you enjoy? What are you interested in? And just try to think about this in a simple way, because a lot of times our feelings is what will wear us down, stress us out, and not the actual situation. So find what makes you feel calm and just don't be hard on yourself.
Yeah, that is such beautiful advice. I love that. Don't be hard and like make it simple because our brain does overcomplicate things. So that's such a good advice. And I'll also say, for me, I think, yeah, just taking action. And, sometimes people, and I'm not even talking about my program, just in general, sometimes people are so worried about like investing in themselves. And again, it doesn't have to be my program, any help, any sort of, I don't know, trying a different career. It's just the thing is like, when you are putting so much pressure on thinking of like, oh, should I invest in the program? Should I like work with that person? What you're showing is that you don't trust yourself because honestly, every process works. every program works. It doesn't even matter what it is. If you do the work, if you go in and you're open and you actually just like surrender to the process. Remember, we would always say, trust the process, just trust the process is going to get you places. And it doesn't even matter what the process is. It's about you and the connection you build and the self-trust that you have and you bring. So if you're feeling stuck, just like get help, get accountability partner, talk to people who are in this career already, like pick their brain. Like there's so much that we can do. And to your point, Linda, if we just make it simple and be like, what's the next simple step? What is the next simple step I could take? Simple as that. And then go ahead and take it. Yes, it's not about the action, but sometimes when we're stuck in that analysis paralysis, it's about the action. Whatever silly or small it would be. Okay, cool. We're on time. Just quickly, so what is next for you girls? And if you want to share where people could learn about you and what are sort of your immediate plans?
Is that my next steps are just really to explore what it would look like to go be a freelance in brand and design strategy. I've always been like full-time and more of an agency capacity. And so to be able to do that freelance while then as a transition role towards figuring out what my actual business would be.
Yeah. Amazing. Hopefully sooner than later.
Yes.
Linda, what about you? What are you excited about? What are you doing with your business? What offers do you have?
So yeah, so my training business is called the Sculpt Lab, and I am doing a challenge right now, and I'm starting to market it online, and it's working, Vilma. Yeah, I'm trying to build up my online presence for my nutrition, Reiki, and personal training business. And just posting regularly and posting content that is authentic to me, which I feel it is now. So I think I'm on the right path here, and I'm just going to continue doing that.
Love it. And you have one-on-one, right? So you have the challenge and you have your one-on-one.
Yes, exactly.
So we'll add your handle in the show notes. So if you're interested, so you offer, tell me what you offer, say in your one-on-one, so people would have an idea.
So my one-on-one, I have personal training, nutrition, mindset coaching, and Reiki, and that can be done in person or online. So all of these options are available, and they are packaged into a monthly price.
I love that because I love that it's a combination, again, it's holistic, right? Because we need it all. Yes, when I'm training, I need to know how to do my exercises, but also I need to understand about habits and how habits are formed and understand about mindset. But also sometimes my energy is low and maybe I need an energy clearing. So I love that you're pretty much working with all of the bodies, physical, mental, energetic, sometimes emotional too. Love.
Yes, exactly. And thank you for mentioning the habit focused kind of tactics that ties into the mindset. Habit building is really what's going to keep you successful outside of working with me. So that is a huge focus in all parts of my program.
Yeah, I love that for you.
This has been really fun. And Linda, I've loved hearing more of your like behind the scenes stuff that you've been like, when I say behind the scenes, that like might not have always been shared in the group sessions or whatnot. It's like amazing, your journey. And I even learned a lot from you, even from this conversation.
No, Lauren, it was so nice to have this conversation, and I'm excited. I want to stay in touch and hear more about your journey and make sure that you're doing what you need to get into more freelance consulting. But I'd love to stay in touch. And Vilma, thank you so much. This was awesome and so much fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had so much fun. Thank you, leaders, for your amazing energy. Thank you for being vulnerable and open. I know it's not easy. I know both of you were like, okay. I think Linda was excited. Lauren was like, let me sit with this. Do I really want to?
I wanted to think about it. Yeah.
As you should. So I'm really happy that, again, the universe connected us. As you see, there are many interesting common points. So thank you so much for doing this work. Thank you so much for showing up for yourself and thank you from your future self, because she's really, really proud looking back of the work that you've done and all this you will continue to be doing. So thank you so much, ladies. You're an inspiration.
Thank you, Vilma.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye. If you've resonated with this conversation and you're feeling similarly stuck in your career, I'd love to invite you to join the Holistic Career Change Group program. This program is designed to help you move from frustration and confusion to clarity and purpose in your career or your dream business. Over 5 months together, you'll work with a supportive group to discover your ideal, most aligned career path, create a practical transition plan, plan your finances for the switch, and prepare yourself for success by tackling your fears, your imposter syndrome, and all the other gremlins. We're not just talking about finding a new job here. We're talking about aligning your career with who you are and what you value. If you're ready to make this meaningful change, the next cohort starts November 11th. You'll find all the details in the show notes. See you inside.